You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
Testy House GOP meeting ends with no progress amid MAGA fury at Supreme Court, based on an article by Matthew Chapman. The House is frozen because Republicans cannot govern their own fear. A majority that cannot move. House Republicans have the numbers, the Speaker's gavel, and the procedural authority to reopen the floor. They also have the discipline of a fractured grievance machine. Mike Johnson convened a call to find a path forward on immigration legislation, and it ended in the same place so much of GOP governance ends now, nowhere. That matters. This is not a legislative stalemate created by external sabotage. It is a governing majority unable to convert its own power into action because its factions are more invested in performance, vetoes, and loyalty tests than in passing anything durable. The real decision makers. The people actually shaping the outcome here are Johnson, Jim Jordan, the MAGA hardliners, the moderates, and the conservatives on the call. Johnson is the speaker, but the source makes clear he is not commanding the conference so much as pleading with it. Jordan and the other factions are not spectators. They are the institutional actors deciding whether the chamber functions at all. The deeper power still sits with the party's most extreme bloc, because the agenda has to survive their tantrums before it can survive the floor. When a speaker has to ask whether Republicans can find a path forward, that is not leadership. It is surrender dressed up as consultation, blame laundered through procedure. The source shows a familiar trick turned deliberate obstruction into procedural confusion. The chamber is frozen, yet the story is framed as a testy call and an unresolved impasse, as if nobody chose this outcome. They did. The anger cited in the report comes after the Supreme Court struck down Trump's order abolishing birthright citizenship, and Republicans are now demanding that the House actually do what we said and codify border security. That is not confusion. It is a pressure campaign. Use judicial defeat as an excuse to escalate legislative hostage-taking, then present the paralysis as principled frustration. A second failure in the same day. This was already a bad day for Johnson before the call. He pushed a plan tied to Rep. Anna Paulina to attach the Save America Act, Trump's voting rights restriction package, and more than a dozen Republicans voted it down, leaving the House without a rules package. That detail is not a sideshow. It shows a majority that cannot even reliably unite around its own authoritarian priorities. The problem is not that the party lacks agenda. The problem is that it lacks a stable governing coalition capable of translating that agenda into law. The larger pattern is plain. Republican power increasingly functions as a sabotage device. The party demands obedience, harvests outrage from the courts, and then blames institutional gridlock on everyone except the people causing it. Johnson is left managing the wreckage because the conference prefers leverage over legislation and grievance over governance. That is the political meaning of this freeze. A party that treats authoritarian policy goals as identity markers cannot stop itself from breaking the institutions it claims to run. When power is used primarily to threaten, block, and posture, paralysis is not a bug. It is the operating system. You've been listening to Systemic Care. Thanks to Raw Story for today's article, with the automated voice of Joe. Thanks for listening.